Hi, friends. I'm Zach.
I'm not Mitch.
And we are an excellent little podcast.
Presenting you a little movie podcast starring Zach and not Mitch.
Wait, we're doing a podcast?
You know, I think we are.
Okay.
But in this podcast,
Yes.
and the reason why I said not Mitch is because in this podcast, we're technically playing ourselves.
Kinda, yeah.
But, so therefore, the person speaking right now, would it be really Mitch or not Mitch or Mitch playing himself?
You know what? I think you're just being absolutely meta about this.
Yeah.
Which I think ties really well into the absolutely meta movie that we just got out of, which is the absolutely unbearable weight of massive talent.
Starring Nicolas Cage, Pedro Pascal, Tiffany Haddish, with some supporting characters such as Lily Mosheen and Sharon Horgan. This brief summary is Nicolas Cage plays Nick Cage himself, channeling his iconic characters as he's caught between a superfan and a CIA agent.
Yep, this is directed by Tom Gormican, who also had a hand in writing the script, along with Kevin Etten.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's either Etten or Eaton.
Yeah.
However you pronounce your name, by golly, we got it.
Yep, we gotcha. All right. So, yeah. So, a little bit of backstory. This movie was definitely on my radar, and a lot of people were wondering about what I thought of this movie. I said, don't worry. We're going to go see it. We're going to review it, and we're going to have fun with it. So, I could tell when I brought this up, Mitch was a little bit like, really? You want to go see this?
Well, I am not a Nicolas Cage fan.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed some of his new earlier stuff, like Moonstruck.
Or The Rock.
I've never seen The Rock.
Oh, you've never seen The Rock?
I've never seen The Rock.
You'll have to see that one.
I've seen Adaptation, which is really good.
Con Air?
Put the bunny back in the box. Good. I've seen that scene,
Good.
And that's it.
Well, I mean, that's...
I really enjoy him in Family Man. That's a really beautiful Christmas movie. But other than that, I am not a fan of Nicolas Cage. But I do have to point out, I don't know if you knew this, but he was supposed to play Superman.
He was.
And Superman Lives. And I watched a documentary about that movie. And how
written and directed by John Schnepp. Mm-hmm.
It was... I would have paid money to see that movie. I really would, because it was written, the script... or at least the first version, was written by Kevin Smith, diehard comic book fan, and then was going to be directed by Tim Burton.
Yep.
However, the fact that Superman needed to fight a giant robot spider at the end of the movie, that I'm just like, really? You first have him in the first act, have him fight Doomsday.
Yeah.
And then have a funeral. And Michael Keaton is supposed to return as Batman.
Yep.
And then have him bring him back to life in the second act.
Yep.
Just so he can fight a Brainiac-controlled spider.
Yep.
Wow.
There's no more comic booky than that, man.
But I don't know. And I feel like ever since that movie was destroyed, I'm just going to say it, his picking of films and his performances have steadily declined. I'm in the minority here. I don't like any of the National Treasure films.
Oh, how could you not?
I don't like them. I feel like they're just your prototypical trophy hunters, and I'm just like, what? I don't... I
say it was better than National Treasure. National Treasure 1, at least, was better than the first Uncharted
I will
movie.
agree that National Treasure was better than the second one, and it was a decent movie. It's just, if I had to choose with Disney live action films, it's not National Treasure.
Yeah.
It's not National Treasure, that's for sure. And it's because of Nick Cage. It's because Nicolas Cage, to me, is such an over actor of an actor. Like, when I watch his performance, and it's really visible in this film, and he does it on purpose. Well, he's such an over actor. He just doesn't know what he's doing anymore. He doesn't at all. And I'm just like, Go back to your 80s acting. Go back to that. That was good acting. And this, I'm just like, bro, you just need to stop. You really need to stop. But there was my running before we
go in. Yeah.
Yes.
So I guess that kind of leads pretty well, actually, to ask, what is your reaction coming from a non-Nicolas Cage fan?
Well, it was a movie.
Yeah. And that's all you can really say? Yep, all right, that's fair. That's fair.
But Zach.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts? Because this movie had me. You were laughing the majority of the movie, I would say.
I was laughing. Yeah, I was definitely laughing.
I think you kind of looked at me. I think you looked at me one time, and I had this blank stare while I was watching the whole entire movie, and I'm just like,
I looked at you once, and you were like, you made me watch this.
But then you gave me crap for saying that. Morbius.
Yeah, you dragged me to Morbius. So
however, I have to point out that is a franchise movie.
That is true, and it was on your top 10.
And it has qualities with the Marvel universe, whereas this is just
this is ancillary. Yeah,
It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, Zach, tell me your thoughts, and let's get to it.
So, I appreciate Nick Cage for where he's at in his career right now, because he's fully embraced the meme side of his persona. I think so. I was really looking forward to him playing himself. I thought that was a really great concept, and I love Pedro Pascal in so much of the work that he's done, especially in Mandalorian. But just the two of them being just basically doing a buddy movie, I thought was really, really fun and lent itself to a good shtick and a good plot device to kind of go around and play around with, especially since Nick Cage was indeed playing himself. Coming out of the theater, a lot of the laughing that I had to do, that I did was, yeah, some was genuine, but a lot of it was, this is not amazing, because all you had was that shtick, and you put everything into it, and there were times where it worked, and there were a lot of times where the theater was silent.
And I'm not talking just silent. I'm talking this movie. You probably could have heard like so many pin drops. It was that silent because the jokes didn't land.
Because it's an action comedy. It is. That's what it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. But there's just, I feel like genuinely the idea of this movie was, let's get Nick Cage to play himself. How are we gonna do that? Okay, well, let's have like a human that like our audience can relate to. Okay, who's hot right now? Pedro Pascal. Yeah, let's throw him in there. All right. What are they gonna do?
Let's have him be buddy in this little action sequence, and let's have Pedro Pascal play a fan.
Yeah,
and I'm sorry. I cannot. Well, I can probably say this for the cast performances later, but we'll get to that. I almost knocked over the microphone
actually,
because this movie wanted me to literally knock over something.
Well, don't worry, because honestly, that was kind of it for my kind of first reaction. So we can go ahead and move on to our cast performances.
I am holding on to the microphone for dear life.
So we already know about your past history with Nicolas Cage. What did you think of? You kind of already alluded to it. What did you think of his performance in this movie?
So I definitely believe that he played himself.
Yeah.
So Nicolas Cage, I gotta applaud you for that. Bravo. But man, oh man, I don't know what else you can do after this film, because I feel like this movie, even though he did a good job, I feel like this, for him, it's almost at the lowest point where you're playing yourself, not just playing yourself, but you're making fun of yourself. Because, yeah, I really don't have anything else to say except he's at a low, literally at the lowest point of his career where he's playing himself, even though he did a good job. It's pretty bad when somebody's making a movie about you and you're making fun of yourself. And I don't really have much else to say about Nicolas Cage. Okay, I really don't.
For sure. Yeah. I'll actually kind of turn your point on it. It's Nick Cage has almost kind of had a bit of a renaissance just because he's been able to take that criticism and laugh about it and use that towards his work. So I thought it was actually a really good move for him to be like, yeah, I know I'm known for my over-the-top performances right now, so let's just do an entire movie about it. I think that's genius, and I think there's money to be made in that. But again, it's just the execution was not entirely there. I feel like Nick Cage almost like he liked the idea, but then when it came for him to be like really over the top, he saved it for one character in particular, which I won't bring exactly up until we actually get into the spoilers, but he saved it for one character and then made the relationship between him and Pedro Pascal, tried to make it heartfelt and wonderful, which, to be honest, if there is anything that is actually kind of that did save this movie a little bit, I felt the relationship between him and Pedro Pascal actually worked pretty well. It's the thing that kind of got me through this movie. I felt they had really good chemistry together. I felt that they did a really wonderful job at having that like don't meet your heroes kind of a relationship, but I kind of turned on its head. I thought it was kind of interesting on that point, but in terms of like Nick Cage's actual genuine performance, he didn't go as far as I wanted him to go when he was genuinely like playing himself. Like he was playing kind of like wannabe, like the done actor, the actor that has reached the end of his career and he's like, I'm done. This is it. There's really nothing else for me. No one's really casting me in anything that I really want to be in. So I'm just kind of done. And then when he starts hanging out with Pedro Pascal, some of that more fiery overacting Nick Cage's reference, because Pedro Pascal wants him to act like the blowhard Nick Cage that we know from the movies. And when he does that, I wish he brought more fiery spirit of Nick Cage into those, because it feels like it's almost, when he does it, it's like a half step, which I don't know if he was trying to play it as like, this is the stick that I've been doing, so I kind of don't want to do it, but here it is kind of thing. But it just, when he went to that leap, it just didn't feel right until he went to his bonus character, which again, I'll save until we actually get there. So yeah, so then we can go ahead and move on to Pedro Pascal. I feel like he was the heart of this movie.
Yeah, he's a definite scene stealer.
He was definitely a scene stealer, just as you said. And he just, anytime that he was in the scene, I really felt for him and actually was a really genuinely great counter to Nick Cage and everything that he brought. I
definitely believed that Pedro Pascal would portray a superfan, because I never pictured him to be a superfan.
Yeah,
because, Pedro Pascal, for the most part of his films, he plays that popular badass almost.
Yeah, and usually kind of like the smooth, cool badass as well. Like he doesn't
a playboy kind of, maybe.
Kind of, yeah, but like just kind of like that, like really like almost like stone cold killer kind of like way with Mandalorian and with Narcos and things like that. Like he's a very like really well done serious actor. So to see him play a very nervous, anxiety ridden super fan, I thought that was really, really different and really cool to see that side of him.
Oh yeah. I feel like if we continue talking about Pedro Pascal as Javi, there's a few things about him in the film that we really can't discuss right now.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we're going to move on.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
We're going to move to Tiffany Haddish as Vivian.
Yeah.
the CIA agent.
What do you think of Tiffany?
Well, it's shown in the trailers that she's an agent, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
didn't want to spoil that or anything.
No.
She was fine. There's nothing really that sticks out.
Yeah. Her character was really basic.
Oh, for sure.
Literally, her character is there literally as a plot device to make something, to add another layer to the movie.
Well, if you really think about it, we have in our notes, after Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal, the rest of the cast is pretty much just there for moral support.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, the entire point of this movie genuinely is getting Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal together.
Yeah, you have Lily Mosheen as Nicholas's fictional daughter, Addie.
Yep.
Which she was fine. Definitely believable. You have Sharon Horgan as Olivia.
Who was his ex-wife.
His fictional ex-wife.
Yep.
You do have Neil Patrick Harris as his fictional agent, which... I don't know. He was not needed.
He was literally he was literally a device to get them together.
Yeah, he was pointless.
To get Pedro and Nick together. Like, that was it.
But if you really watch this movie, if there was a way that you could just have Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal, Javi, in this film, that's all you would see. There really is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The rest of the cast are just there for support of these two and their relationship. Mm-hmm. So we talked about the cast. Can we go, before we go into our review and our spoiler section, can we talk about a little bit about the pacing / script?
Yeah, so this is where I feel like this movie really kind of falls. There are moments where it knows exactly what it is, and when it does, it actually does a decent job of following through on it, especially when Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal are together and just them. There are some really good, honest, and heartfelt moments in there, and some sometimes really funny moments. But there's also some, like, shticks also that, like, on paper sound great, but actually just weren't all that great when actually it happened. I'll go ahead and mention that in our spoiler section as well. But it
was a kind of a muddled, mixed bag.
Yeah, it was like, basically, just to kind of go back to, like, how we were saying of, let's get these two together. Okay, how are we going to do that? Okay.
Let's make it a birthday party.
Let's make it a birthday party. Sure. Okay, they're together. Okay, what's going to be a driving force? Okay, let's have Pedro Pascal be an arms dealer. Like, sure, cool. And the CIA wants to monitor him. Great. And Nicolas Cage is there, so the CIA uses them because they can't monitor Pedro Pascal for some reason. Sure. Like, it was just literally, like, I felt like they were throwing, like, ideas at a dartboard just to fill a story.
Well, not just that. I feel like they had ideas in a hat, and Tom Gormican and Kevin Eaton, they were like, oh, which idea do we have in this lovely hat? And they grab it and, let's have Pedro Pascal play a superfan, and let's have him bring Nicolas Cage on a action buddy comedy to celebrate his birthday and give him $1 million.
Yeah. No, like, and that's the thing. Like, it's
very random.
It's very random, and, like, it's just because of how random it is, like, the pacing just goes up and down in this movie. Yeah. It's really weird because it will kind of start to creep up, then we'll kind of dive, and then we'll start to creep up again, and you feel like, okay, it's probably now going to hit a straight. No, it goes right back down.
It was very
and like, it just goes. It was very inconsistent. There are some times, like, I think Mitch checked his watch several times. Like, I think there was like 7, 8, 9 times that you were checking your watch.
It was my phone.
Yeah.
So bad movie buff me. But
that's
how
like,
bad it was.
Like, he was basically checking his phone because, like, it was a 2-hour movie, and, like, this
It dragged.
There were moments where it was like, yeah, we're taking too long on this part.
There was a point where, I'm not going to lie, I've never walked out of a movie other than illness. I was so close to walking out of this movie than I've ever been in a whole film, other than the 355.
I wouldn't say that I would walk out of this movie, but I knew going into it that it wasn't gonna be art.
For sure.
It was definitely not. Like I went in here as a Nicolas Cage fan, thinking like I was gonna get just over the top Nick Cage. So I knew what I was getting myself into, and you did too. And like you said, you're not the biggest fan of Nicolas Cage, so I could totally see why you would not be huge about this.
We also had a lot of friends tell us that it's such a good movie. You know who you are. If you think this movie is good, I really want to pick your brain. Because, okay, can we go into the review? Or is there anything else?
Yeah, we can go into the review.
So,
I think we've hit all the things that we can.
So before I continue, if you're new to this podcast, we have 3 areas of review. We have Feed It to the Dog, Jazz, who is right next to Zach.
We love you.
And I'm pretty sure you said he's hungry, right?
Yeah, he's a little hungry. He hasn't eaten just yet.
The movie needs to cook, which maybe a little bit more seasoning, or
maybe just need a little more time in the oven just to think on thoughts,
or add a little bit. What do they do? Sometimes they add lemon to the food.
Yeah, like just like add a little something.
Yeah,
like it needed just a little more time to cook. Then it could have maybe been a better movie.
Or we ate it up, meaning it was a good movie.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying, we had some friends tell us like, "Oh, it's such a good movie." Or Zach, I know you did have a few people.
We had a few people that really were wondering about this.
I had one person tell me, and I'm just like, "Well, we better do it." And Zach, you told me, and I'm watching this movie, and I'm just thinking, who in their right mind would think this movie is a good movie? I looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score, and they say it's good.
Yeah,
but you pointed out after the film was over, it's so bad, it's good.
Yeah, it's one of those kinds.
But to me, I don't appreciate films they're so bad, it's good. If I see a bad movie, it's a bad movie. Therefore, I'm feeding it to your dog.
Ah, that's fair. So I feel like this is another one where we disagree on a little bit. But yeah, this to me, I don't think I'm gonna feed it to Jazz. I think he deserves a little bit better than that, but I'm not gonna throw it down. I'm not gonna do anything else with it. I feel like this movie had a great concept, but tried to rely on this shtick of Pedro Pascal and Nick Cage, and just didn't turn far enough into it, or didn't keep its like eyes on the prize. So I feel like if it just would have cooked a little more and had a lot more fun with its premise, I think it would have done better and focused on that premise. So I think that's the little bit of seasoning that it actually needed, and needed to cook a little more. That way it could have actually been a better film. However, I will say on terms of spectrum wise, it's definitely on the lower side, because I had decent expectations coming into this movie, and it ultimately did fail my expectations, but there were a few golden nuggets that would make me say that I wouldn't feed it to the dog just yet.
Well, that's our second disagreement.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't find any. So after I see a movie, because we just saw it today.
Yeah.
There is always something going through my mind like, oh, was it really that good, or was it really that bad?
Yeah.
And I try to remember good bits of the movie. Yeah. And I can't really, other than Pedro Pascal's Javi, I really can't think of anything.
Gotcha.
I can't.
Yeah.
It's just not there for me. It didn't click.
Yeah, that's fair.
It wasn't very funny. I know you were laughing at, I don't want to say the majority of the movie, but you explained.
Yeah.
I kind of chuckled a few times, but there were a few chuckle moments.
Sure.
But the movie was not funny. The plot line was just random.
Yeah.
The pacing was bad. The pacing was bad. The action was so unnecessary. And
it just kind of came out of nowhere at one point.
And other than Pedro Pascal, the acting in this movie was just very subpar.
Yeah.
And it's not just Nicolas Cage. Neil Patrick Harris was subpar.
Yeah.
Tiffany Haddish, even though she was okay.
Like, she was just...
Lily Mo Sheen, I don't know if this was her first film or not.
I thought she was all right.
She was fine.
She was all right.
The mom was not good.
Mom was, she was She
So-
was
so-
I wouldn't say not good, but she was
So, again, there's no really, other than Pedro Pascal's Javi, I really can't think of a good bit in this movie, so therefore... I won't. Okay, so I won't feed it to your dog.
But
I will feed it to my roommate's dog.
Yeah, to a dog. Anyway, but so that wraps up our review side. So there is a little bit of a spoiler section that I kind of want to go over. So
Wah, wah, wah. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. I'm not into this movie, so this alarm sucks.
actually, no, you actually did a good job with that this time. So
Thank you.
So this time on in the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent in the spoiler section, we're gonna go ahead and talk about its trying to be self-awareness and a couple of other little ancillary things that I also want to kind of bring up about it. There's this one scene in the movie. Well, okay, not really a scene. It's a plot line. So the plot line between Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal specifically is that they're writing a movie together.
After Javi brings Nicolas Cage to his house,
his mansion.
They
whatever.
never really explained what country he's from, did they?
He's from Spain.
Oh, was it Spain?
Yeah, it was Spain.
See, I don't remember that because I just didn't like the movie or I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Because that's the point. The movie just didn't care about where they were going. They just cared about this relationship. Anyway. Yeah.
But
and
it was very self-aware because they were bringing up like how like this movie should be a buddy movie. But randomly we're going to have a kidnapping, and of course a kidnapping later happens. They were very trying to be self-aware about it, but that joke just really didn't land. And
okay, one quick thing.
Yeah.
I just remembered a good thing about this movie.
Okay, what's that?
That was super funny.
Okay.
And we're in the spoilers section, so I'm just going to go for it.
Go ahead.
When Cage and Javi were on LSD.
Okay, so here's the thing.
That was funny. That was funny.
So for me, there were moments in there that were funny, but I feel like they could have gone so much farther with that. Like
that wall scene.
The wall scene was hilarious. I did really love that.
Okay, so that's probably the best bit of this movie.
That was
wall
really
scene.
funny. But like that's an example of like you could have had like absolutely memeable prime Nick Cage in that moment. And you just didn't. It was literally like Nick Cage looked zoned out throughout that entire scene. I was like, dude, this is the time to bring it. Like
you're on LSD.
And Pedro Pascal looks like he's just having the time of his life when he's on LSD, which I loved.
It's almost like he's been on LSD before.
But it was so fun. And yeah, that wall scene was just perfect. And literally, like, they had the little bit of overacting, which that's the part I was really starting to eat up. And then when Pedro Pascal just pops his head over, you're like...
Well, and you mentioned the overacting. That scene was necessary for overacting because they were on drugs.
Yeah.
They thought they were being followed by two random strangers that were just randomly looking at them.
Yep.
And
because they were being idiots on LSD.
Yeah. Well, and Nicolas Cage was trying to find the person that was kidnapped because the CIA thought it was Javi.
Yep.
But it turns out it was his
cousin.
It was his cousin, which that's stupid.
Well, and also, like, from the second that the cousin steps in like, the beginning of the movie, you're like, oh, so he's at least a jackass, if not the villain. Mm-hmm. And then, like, as you're going through, you're like, oh, yeah, no, Javi's literally has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, because Javi was a good dude. So they go on their buddy, they're writing the script, and then randomly Javi invites Addie and Olivia to the house.
Yeah,
Which that was just a bonehead script decision in my opinion. That really was. They
were like, what, how can we stir the pot more? I guess let's just throw them in there.
Well, the reason why they were there because they thought Nicolas Cage was sick.
Yeah.
And I highly doubt Nicolas Cage's ex-wife and his daughter.
His daughter, I might kind of understand maybe coming out, but his ex-wife, coming out there, it makes no sense.
His ex-wife.
She was like, yeah, like I could buy her going like, okay, when he comes back, like,
I hope he's better.
I hope he's better. I'll maybe like go like, hey, how you doing? But not like a full out, I'm going to fly to Spain to make sure, like, no. Like, there was nothing that really sold me on the point that she would come all the way out there.
The only reason I could see her going to Spain was if he's probably, I'm sorry, Nicolas Cage, you've probably done this before, where he's missed a child support payment. Because and they mentioned in the movie how in debt he is because of his random spending. So he may have missed one or two. That is the only reason why I think she would go up to Spain, not for the reason in the movie where he was sick. I mean, come on, what are y'all doing with this movie? Oh my god! Where are we now?
Okay, but here's the other thing too. So I alluded to this like bonus character that Nicolas Cage had, which is basically he plays his ego at random points in this movie, which is like the genuine meme of Nick Cage, like the epitome of overacting. Like he literally screams, "I'm Nicolas freaking Cage," and I'm like, okay, great.
And he actually makes out with him,
like,
too.
And he makes out with him, and that scene was fucking hilarious.
That was weird. I didn't like that scene.
But here's the thing, he just randomly pops in and out, and then he's like there, and then he's gone, and then you don't see him for a while. So it's like the weirdest plot device. Like, you could have used it more, but I feel like they were like, well, okay, we're not really getting like what we want out of Nick Cage at that, so like, I guess we're gonna kind of throw that idea out halfway through the movie.
I feel like it would have worked even better when he wasn't a life size, like his exact size. It would have been nice if he was like on his shoulder.
Yeah, like a shoulder angel or something. That would have been great.
Well, like when he didn't need to be life size, you know, and it was a random bit in the scene, like, maybe he could have been a perfect, like you said, a shoulder angel, or like when he's, because there's a scene where he's washing his hand after he touched the
LSD. Oh, and it wasn't LSD, but like the drug or whatever that the CIA gave him. Yeah, that
would have been perfect for him to show up in the mirror.
Yeah,
or when he's driving. There he is in the mirror, in the car rear view mirror or something like that.
Yeah,
but I wanted to see more of that Nick Cage.
But again, great concept, just not great like handling of it, and they just kind of dropped the ball with it.
Oh, absolutely. And that, I think, is not Nicolas Cage's fault or Pedro Pascal's fault. No, that's just poor writing, poor decision making.
Yeah.
And you gotta, because I will agree with you, even though I didn't like this movie, the concept of this movie could have really, really worked. Just poor decision making and just bad creative ideas.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's why we love doing this kind of a podcast, is to tell you guys whether or not you should spend your hard-earned money on seeing some of these things. I would say this is a great one if you happen to see on streaming, and
I will agree with that, yeah.
And you're like, you know what, I wanted to see this, but just didn't get the time to.
Or
this is a good
renting
it, like just a way where it happens to come by and you're like, you know what, I was interested in it. That's a good way to go ahead and check this out. I would not see this movie in theaters.
So I would counteract that. I also, even though I wouldn't see it in theater, I feel like this is a good drive-in movie.
This would be a good drive-in movie too.
For a drive-in first date, because you
No,
can't,
well, yeah, sure, yeah,
because you can't take this movie seriously.
True.
I feel like this is a drive-in movie.
Yeah.
And not the kind of drive-in movie that you're thinking. I feel like it's a good sunset drive-in movie watching, if you know what I mean. But not one of those like, oh yeah, it's Friday night, let's go to the drive-in, let's watch this great movie. I'm thinking this is more of a Sunday. As the sunset goes down.
It really is, and that's really why we kind of watch this movie too, is in case it was this kind of a movie where people are interested in it, I would not recommend seeing it in theaters, as opposed to like a movie like Everywhere All at Once, where I would suggest seeing that. These are like two movies that like you might see, but you want to see what people say about it first. This one I would skip on. I would just go ahead and see Everywhere All at Once.
Or The Northman.
Or The Northman. Which again, all movies that are going to be very divisive, I feel, around people, but like to each their own.
Yeah, so that's the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Stop spreading great stuff about you. We know you are massively talented, Mitch. Just it's fine. You don't have to harp on yourself.
Well, I'm always down on myself, so therefore I want to talk about this unbearable weight of massive talent that I have. I just don't show it.
Okay. All right. I feel that.
But
don't worry.
And I just love being Nicolas Cage.
That's fair. But don't worry.
I don't like being Nicolas Cage.
You ate your vegetables. You did. You ate your vegetables for this movie.
But
your dessert is coming next week. With with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which we are hoping.
We're not hoping. It's happening.
Oh, it's happening.
Yes.
No, don't get me wrong. It is happening, but we hope to actually get it out really soon for you guys. That way we can talk about it and you guys can hear all your things about it as soon as we can get it literally recorded.
The plan is we're going to see it on Thursday.
And record it on Friday. Hopefully. We'll see.
I thought we were...
Or maybe even record it Thursday. We'll see. We don't know. But
we don't know. We've got a week left.
We've got a week left, so it's 10 days, I think. Actually,
10 days. Yeah. It's gonna be better than this movie.
Oh yeah, but until that time, I'm Zach.
I'm Mitch,
and we are
an excellent little podcast.